Welcome to First Time Leaders Accelerated. I'm Timothy Dean Smith, your host and coach. This podcast is dedicated to those transitioning from individual contributor to people-centered leader and entrepreneurs who hire their first employee. Leading people is the most important responsibility in the world, yet 60% of first-time leaders fail. To help you avoid these failures and accelerate your transition, I share knowledge and insight I accumulated over 4 decades. That's right, 4 decades as a crash test dummy for leader development. I'm sure you've heard the phrase, know, like, and trust, often referred to as the natural progression for healthy relationships. There is a word missing from this phrase. The word is distrust. All relationships begin with distrust, which is our survival instinct that has been honed over centuries. Until recently, distrust is rarely mentioned because over those centuries, we have learned to quickly determine whether our life is in danger, and we quickly move to the no portion of the phrase know, like, and trust. Multiple surveys have determined distrust is now our society's default emotion. Nearly 60% say their default tendency is to distrust someone until they see evidence of trustworthiness. As a result, it's progressively more difficult to have civil debates. We see this play out in world politics. When distrust is the default, people lack the ability to debate or collaborate. According to the 2022 Edelman Trust Barometer Report, we now live in a time of distrust, but verify. Given the state of the world, it's not surprising trust in leadership is at an all-time low. According to the March 2021 Gallup panel survey, only 23% of U.S. employees strongly agree they trust the leader in their organization. When people lose trust in their leaders, their decisions are based on suspicion, and their actions become self-focused. Businesses become weaker as fewer employees perform for the greater good of the organization. Gallup's State of the Global Workforce report found 74% of employees worldwide believe corruption is widespread among businesses in their country. Think about that. That's a staggering number. Nearly 3/4 of employees worldwide believe corruption is widespread among businesses in their country. That's absolutely terrible, and you as leaders can affect that positively by demonstrating trust and trustworthiness. This reminds me of the great Warren Buffett quote, "Trust is like the air we breathe. When it's present, nobody notices. When it's absent, everybody notices." People often ask, should leaders be liked? I say yes, because being liked is a prerequisite for trust, and trust is the glue for relationships. On a stormy night, a businessman boarded a plane. His seat was between a woman and a young girl. He found it strange such a young girl would be traveling alone. The plane was suddenly jolted by turbulence. The pilot instructed everyone to fasten their seatbelts. Several times during the flight, the plane was jostled and shaken. Some passengers were crying, others praying, and a few using the little bag in the seat back pocket. The businessman was clenching his armrest tightly. Meanwhile, he noticed the young girl sat quietly, not seeming worried. Suddenly, the turbulence ended. The pilot apologized for the bumpy ride and announced they would be landing soon. The businessman said to the young girl, "I have never met a braver young person in all my life. How is it that you remained so calm while all the adults were so afraid?" She looked him in the eyes and she said, "My father is the pilot, and he's taking me home." The best way to determine if someone is trustworthy is to trust them, unless they give you a reason not to. Integrity ultimately builds trust. Trust is built on telling the truth, not telling people what they want to hear. Trust is not developed in a day. It's developed over time. You can't simply say, I trust you, we're good. Trust and reputation are very fragile. Both take time to develop, but can be ruined in a split second. Trust is the essential ingredient in effective communication. It's the foundation for relationships. To demonstrate trust to those present, be loyal to those absent. People will then trust you to not talk about them when they are absent. If you can be trusted in small matters such as this, you can be trusted in larger matters. Compared to economic considerations such as the price and return on investment, trust comes out as the most important factor when closing deals. Nothing destroys trust faster than breaking a promise. Conversely, nothing builds trust more than keeping a promise. Leadership at one time was about power and authority. Today, leadership is more about relationships. Communication and trust are the foundation for relationships, and relationships are the essence of our existence. A culture consists of varying levels of trust and relationships. A business's culture resides in the heart and souls of its people. A business culture is like team chemistry in athletics. You get what you tolerate. Culture determines everything. A high-trust culture is a two-way street and builds high-performing teams. By two-way street, I mean the people must trust the leader and vice versa. Trust is the highest form of inspiration and a great performance multiplier. If you find my insight valuable, share this podcast with others on Amazon, Apple, iHeart, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. To benefit from my 4 decades as a crash test dummy for leader development, click the appropriate link in the show notes. Remember, treat people like they make a difference, and they will. Make your leadership matter. Thank you for listening. Take care.